Most critical conversations don't fall apart because people lack facts or courage. They falter because, in moments of stress, authority, or offense, we forget something essential. The person in front of us is living a life as layered, complicated, and unfinished as our own. There is a word for that realization: Sonder. It describes the moment we recognize that every stranger carries an inner world as vivid as ours. Sonder doesn't ask us to agree, excuse, or soften expectations. It asks us to widen our lens before we speak. In today's polarized and high-pressure environments, Sonder may be one of the most underused leadership skills in critical conversations. Why Sonder matters. When conversations are hard, neuroscience helps explain why Sonder disappears precisely when we need it most. Under stress, the brain shifts into threat protection mode. The amygdala reacts quickly, while the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for reasoning, empathy, and impulse control, goes partially offline. As neuroscientist Daniel Goleman notes, when emotions surge, intelligence recedes. In those moments, we reduce people to behaviors, labels, or roles. The difficult patient, the uncooperative eyewitness, the disruptive student. Sonder interrupts that narrowing. It slows us just enough to remember that behavior is only one chapter, not the whole story. A personal example: Sonder without silence. I recently experienced this in a way that required both restraint and resolve. I was at dinner, outside the United States, with a group of Black women, mostly attorneys, celebrating the birthday of one of our friends. When the restaurant staff came over to sing happy birthday, a white man none of us knew joined in. As he walked around the table singing with staff as we sat, he patted me on the head. As an African American woman with very short natural hair, I found the gesture highly offensive. Emotionally, I wanted to jump up and tell him I was not his puppy. In that moment, I had to assess quickly. Do I confront him now and shift the focus away from the celebration, or do I pause? I had a moment of Sonder. I considered that he might have been inebriated, culturally ignorant, completely unaware of the boundary he crossed, or all of the above. That awareness did not excuse the behavior, but it informed my response. What he did not know was that I decided to look for him the next morning at breakfast. When I found him, I calmly and clearly told him that what he had done was inappropriate, that touching women, especially strangers, was unacceptable, and patting any adult on the head is an unconscious but inexcusable demonstration of power he assumed he had, and that he should never do it again. Sonder didn't silence me. It helped me choose when and how to speak so the message would land without collateral damage. Sonder in healthcare. Beyond the chart. In healthcare, critical conversations often happen under time pressure and emotional strain. It's easy to label a patient as non-compliant or a colleague as difficult. A Sonder-informed conversation sounds different. It asks, what barriers might I not see? What fear, history, or misunderstanding could be shaping this interaction? Research published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine shows that perspective-taking improves patient trust, adherence, and outcomes. When clinicians acknowledge the person beyond the diagnosis, conversations become clearer, not longer, and safer for everyone involved. Sonder in law enforcement. Authority with awareness. Law enforcement professionals make rapid decisions in complex human situations. Sonder does not reduce authority, it strengthens judgment. A Sonder-informed approach separates behavior from identity and risk from assumption. It encourages curiosity before conclusion and communication before escalation, when safety allows. Studies from the Police Executive Research Forum highlight that respectful, human-centered communication improves compliance and community trust. Sonder helps officers remain grounded, observant, and intentional, especially when emotions run high. Sonder in education. Keeping learning intact. In education, students and parents are often judged by visible behavior alone. A student who shuts down, lashes out, or disengages may be carrying challenges that never show up in the classroom. Sonder doesn't eliminate accountability. It shapes how accountability is delivered. Educators who practice perspective-taking create environments where correction doesn't become humiliation, and learning doesn't become collateral damage. What Sonder looks like in practice. In critical conversations, Sonder shows up as pausing before assuming intent, naming what we don't know, addressing behavior without diminishing dignity, choosing timing that protects purpose, holding boundaries without hostility. Sonder is not passive. It is disciplined awareness in action. Sonder asks a simple but powerful question before we speak. Who might I be reducing to a moment, and what might I be missing? When we practice Sonder, conversations don't just become calmer. They become clearer, fairer, and more effective, and cultures begin to shift. Think about a recent conversation that left you frustrated or offended. What unseen factors might have been influencing the other person? And how might that awareness change your next response?